Hey everybody, how's it going? And welcome back to the history of video games. My name is Wes, and I am joined by Ben. How you doing today, Ben?
I am doing great. How are you, Wes?
I am doing really good as well. Do you want to get us started today with some of the games that you've been playing recently?
Yeah, sure. I don't know how interesting it will be, but I've been playing a lot of WoW. Still into it. I farmed this mount drop for 2 days. And I finally got it. It was a 1% drop, and I got it on my 65th attempt. So
Oh man.
that's pretty good, I guess.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel good when I was 64. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I did get it, so that's been pretty cool. And then I've been working on a second Unity game. I started up a new one, even though the last one is not close at all to being done. But one of our mutual friends, Joe, was like, "Hey, I'll do it with you," and I was like, "Oh my god, somebody else can actually help me." And we just been powering, doing work on it, and it's gonna be a card game, but also RTS elements because me, I just love RTS.
Love RTSs,
So
of course.
it's gonna be kind of like a deck building game where you build the deck as you go, but it also is going to be super fast paced, so you don't have a whole lot of time. It's going to be more about kind of knowing the builds that your opponent can do and then knowing the counters to those builds. Kind of like in an RTS, but it'll be more card game based.
Interesting. Is it planned to, of course, very, very far out, but do you want it to be an online or like a multiplayer kind of thing or facing AI opponents?
Hopefully it'll be both.
Nice.
There's a whole component to a single player campaign that I want to do, and then there's a whole component that should be online that will be balanced differently, but both directions. I think we'll probably do the single player one first, but who knows? I don't know. We'll see what Joe wants to do, but hopefully both. So I'm super pumped about it, and we've actually been getting stuff done.
Yeah.
So I think Joe told me today he made it so you can drag and drop cards, and you have a hand and you can put them into different zones and stuff. So I was like, whoa.
That's just, you have more coding experience than I do, but when someone just says, I have enough experience to know that somebody's saying you can drag and drop a card, that's that's work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can look a bunch of it up online, I'm sure, and use similar templates, but still, that's not you don't just say okay, drag and drop the card now. And
Yeah. There's so many things that go on behind the scenes with that, and
yeah.
I'm sure I could do it, but I didn't even have to. I could just focus on other things, and it's like somebody else is doing that work for me. I'm like, oh my god, it just feels like it's going so much faster.
Yeah.
Because obviously, more than half of the headaches somebody else is doing. So it's been going really cool and really well. So I'll talk more about that. I'm sure next week there'll be a lot more to talk about, but
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be cool. It'll be very, very cool. I'll definitely send it your way at some point.
Yeah, get me to do some play testing. My current plans for contribution are if we need any kind of flavor text for the cards, or
Yes.
I love doing voice acting things, so as much as we can if I'm every character in the game. No, but
Yeah, voice acting, Wes, and then also just creating whatever lines they're gonna say.
Right, script writing.
Yeah, script writing will probably be the best for that.
Yeah. So it'll be awesome.
Maybe after this, maybe I should make you write up the campaign with me.
There we go.
The story could be. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of start building that universe.
Yeah.
There's tons of stuff, but it's a good thing to have when you're stuck inside and you need sort of a creative outlet to really pour yourself into.
Mm-hmm. And it's always just nice working with other people. It makes you want to work and makes them want to work, and things just get done. So
Yeah.
It's why this podcast was not a failure, because if I had done it by myself, there'd be 2 episodes.
Right. Yeah.
But having other people around is just so helpful. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. What have you been doing, Wes? What have you been actually playing something unlike me, really?
Well, we're recording these a little close to each other from the previous episode. The timeline always gets me a little messed up of how we record these. So nothing since then, but some stuff that I had played previously that I still wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Is I was dipping back into Fallout 4, doing my best to not drop the game at the exact same point that I did when I first got it.
Yeah.
So I had just passed that point, and I remember why I dropped it at that. It's not because it's like starts to take a downhill turn, but it's basically you're on this huge mission to find your son after you get released from the vault. It's been like 200 years that you've been cryogenically frozen, but you woke up halfway through and saw someone kill your wife and take your son. So you're like, get
Yep.
revenge, kill the dude. You find your son. I don't know if I should spoil it for you. Probably doesn't matter, but it's not what you expect when you find your son, basically.
Okay.
And after that point, you have to decide between four factions who you're going to side with. And I think I was just like, no, I'm not going to do it, and stopped playing. I mean, I like characters in Fallout. I like the way that they build their story, but there's a lot of this one faction is just like they are supposed to be the good guys, it feels like.
Hmm.
There definitely is some gray, but the Brotherhood of Steel, who is throughout all these games, not so much. Oh no, they are in the West Coast Fallout games, but they have a very hard line and always have a kind of gray ethical compass because they're doing things for the Brotherhood, and you're like, I don't really know what's going on there. So you can choose them, but then there's these people who are liberating the synthetic humans who are basically becoming self-aware and drawing that whole like AI versus like are they actually just a person kind of line. And I'm kind of tempted to side with these other faction called the Minutemen, who are just like the most bland good guys ever. And well, not necessarily, but that's how like the main character is sort of presented to you, who leads that faction at the time. And I was like, I kind of just want to be different. Like Brotherhood's badass,
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like a lot of people side with them, which they have like this giant airship, which is cool anyway. But when you think about the fact that like everything else is destroyed and they still manage to have this crazy like technological wonder in this wasteland, it's super cool. And then the Institute, which is sort of like the Underground Railroad except for synths. So I'm thinking about going with them, or not the Institute, the Railroad. The Institute's the evil synthetic. They present themselves as evil, but they also have good ethical arguments. But basically, it's just like going between all those, and I couldn't decide which to do, so I just started to go into an aspect of Fallout 4 that I totally forgot existed: base building,
Oh yeah.
because they have this whole base building system, which, in the nature of open world Bethesda games, is like a little clunky and doesn't work super well. But once you get used to the system, you can do some kind of crazy stuff. I wanted to go for more of like a integrated vibe, so it's you have lots of options for places you can go that have like pre-existing structures on them. And it was a little difficult, but I was pretty happy with like the amount of just like junk player created walls I can put on top of a pre-existing house to make it look like this sort of scrapped together kind of base. So really enjoying that, despite how hard it is to place down any of the objects basically in the base building menu. And then there's also sort of a settlement system where once you build a base, people come to it and you can assign them different jobs. You get like ratings for defense, the amount of food and water that you're providing, and you can trade with other settlements. It's this whole thing that I barely even touched in the first playthrough I had, probably because there's so much to do in that game already. But it's been really good. I've been having fun with that. Looking forward to eventually going back to the real story and picking a faction. We'll see who. Maybe I'll do a save right before I pick and then play through the rest of them to see how each ending is. But that's been pretty good. And the other gaming thing I wanted to bring up with you, I just saw, I think last week, that THQ Nordic officially announced their remake of Kingdoms of Amalur,
Oh my god.
which
Wait, is this even the same people?
I
I
don't,
thought that company went out of business.
so did I. So I don't really know what's up with THQ Nordic because
Didn't they
I
do
thought
like Darksiders too? Weren't they like
they did, yes.
they
And
did so much good stuff?
Titan Quest, I think, too. Yeah. Or they bought the people who had did Titan Quest. But yeah, so I thought they were gone too. I don't know what's going on, but Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning is now called Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning, which is
Okay.
so dumb. But I'm kind of okay with how dumb it is. Like, I feel like they were just like, yeah, we're just remaking this. Let's just throw Re-Reckoning on the top of it. Unless it was a
Uh,
meme and they totally played me and I didn't. It's not actually real, but I'm pretty sure it's actually coming.
I would love that. I still have it installed. Like ever since college, I've never uninstalled it because I'm like, it's still worth going back and playing anytime, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And was one of those weird things for if you're listening and you don't know it, it's not surprising because for whatever reason it just like didn't do well. But then
Yeah.
me and Ben, I don't think are the only ones who've played it since then and been like, wait, this is actually like a pretty fun RPG. Like the
Yeah.
gameplay's great, the story's a little, I mean, stereotypical kind of RPG story, but it's still fun and it's got like a good
Mhm.
aesthetic and all that.
It definitely has a very like core group of hard followers, and the people that made it, I think, were the original developers of either Morrowind or
Oblivion,
Oblivion. Yeah, maybe Oblivion actually. So like they definitely have their fans, but it wasn't like a commercial success. Yeah.
right? So I'm surprised they're even one. We didn't think this company existed anymore, and two, it wasn't popular in the first place. So I don't know how this remake's going to go. But I'm excited. I don't think there's any actual gameplay out yet. They did a cinematic trailer, which I was just like, I don't really care.
Mhm.
It looks cool, but whatever. So hopefully we'll get some gameplay if it's a real thing, and I just totally didn't miss it. I'm pretty sure it's a real thing though.
Cool, dude. I'll definitely check that out. Should we get into the special topic though, Wes? I feel like we got a bit of a longer one today, maybe. It's kind
Yeah,
of hard to
yeah,
tell, but
it always is. But let's get into it anyway.
yeah, yeah. So today we're going to be talking about Starship 1, which is a kind of important, kind of interesting space type game. And we thought, you know what, for the special topic, why don't we kind of review space games and why they might be popping up now?
Right.
Let's start out with what we've already seen, and that's been Star Trek games. The original Star Trek TV series first came out in 1960s. I forget what the original year was, 1969, I think, or 68, and ran for 3 seasons. It's weird. I've not really ever watched it, but I know all the names of the people on it because of their. They've had so many like cameos and other stuff. Like I think like
Right.
Big Bang Theory and stuff, which I've seen a lot of. But like Leonard Nimoy, William Shatner, George Takei, all these people were in the original way back in the 60s in black and white. And originally it had very good ratings, but kind of slowly fell off. And then after the third season, it was cut. But it kept running on like the reruns on NBC, I think. Yeah, on NBC. And it was actually the reruns, I think, that got people so invested in it.
Oh, interesting.
They eventually made an animated series in the mid 70s, which I have no idea how well that did, but that's where we are now in the 70s. And as far as video gaming goes, we have a Star Trek game way back in 71 that we talked about, the original Star Trek 71 that I rated and reviewed and thought it was pretty darn good. Following that, the next year we had Star Trek by 4Play, which was a computer space clone that never came out because it was going to get sued by NBC. I just thought it was funny that they were trying to make an arcade Star Trek game without the license. We then had Trek 73, which you did, Wes. We had Super Star Trek, and then the latest one that we did was Trek 80. And there have been some other ones in between, but those are the big ones, I think. Trek 80 having like those ASCII graphics and like some motion and stuff. So
Right.
all really cool. Definitely building off of one another from 71 all the way through 77. So it's definitely been one of the more common franchises. The only other one that comes to mind off the top of my head would be like Jaws type games.
Right.
But definitely I think by far the largest collection of a franchise in video gaming's history up until this point.
And it's going to be followed by an even bigger franchise that's going to inspire tons of video games. Of course, Star Wars.
Oh
And
yeah.
if you're wondering why in the timeline we haven't seen any yet, it actually just came out in May of 1977, and it will go on to be a huge success, grossing $775 million, passing Jaws as the highest grossing film until in 1982, E.T. beats it, which
What?
is real strange to me that E.T. is the one to unseat Star Wars, but
Right.
it is a classic. It's Steven Spielberg, right? I don't really I think I watched it once and I was like, okay, I get all the cultural references now. I'm good. Um, but anyway, so Star Wars is just coming out. So while we haven't seen any Star Wars, at least like directly inspired by Star Wars things yet, we're definitely going to be seeing a ton down the line. But the first licensed Star Wars game that actually comes out, licensed by LucasArts, is not until 1983. So
Hmm.
all the ones that we're going to be seeing up until then are probably either inspired, but they don't call themselves Star Wars, or they're actually Star Wars games that they just kind of didn't get the license for and released under the radar, I guess.
Hmm.
But that first one that comes out in 1983, of course, we'll be raving about it when it comes out, I'm sure, but it will be called Star Wars Arcade. It's just simply a arcade Star Wars game that basically is a X-wing fighter game with vector graphics that looks really cool.
Can't wait.
Oh yeah, and interestingly enough, we are going to be talking about sort of a vector graphic space game that Ben already mentioned a little bit later in the episode. But in 1982, part of the reason that there weren't any of these Star Wars games early on, George Lucas decided to invest in his own video game company, LucasArts, because he didn't really want to license out games to other companies to make. But oddly enough, when he started in 1982 and made LucasArts, they didn't have the rights to make any Star Wars games. So the first
Hmm.
LucasArts Star Wars game actually doesn't come out until all the way in 1993.
Wow.
And it's called X-Wing, which is not one that I think I might have played one of the sequels, but not the original, but it is widely regarded as this fantastic Star Wars game. So going back a little bit to what we're going to be seeing coming up in the timeline, as early as 1978, there's going to be some unlicensed Star Wars games for the Apple II and for the RCA Studio 2. And basically, aside from several years after the video game crash in 1983, there's like a new Star Wars game, at least one, released almost every year. So just looking at how huge Star Trek seems now, Star Trek or Star Wars is going to sort of eclipse that within the next 10, 15 years of this timeline at least. And reportedly in 2020, as of right now, there have been 90 million copies of Star Wars games sold worldwide, just to give an idea of how big the franchise is still. For some reason, that seems like a smaller number to me, but I guess it is still a lot of copies of games sold. So I think part of the reason for this, like Star Trek, it sort of hit at the perfect time to grab public attention and then just sort of became a cultural touchstone for years. And for me personally, looking at this, I was getting super nostalgic watching videos of all the games that came out because Star Wars was, if not one of the first games I played, like pretty close to my introduction to video games in general, playing, like I said, I think a sequel to the X-Wing series on my uncle's computer.
Hmm.
And I was right around the right age when the prequel trilogy started coming out. So then all of the Star Wars games that came out with those I played as well. Can't count how many hours I put into Battlefront and Battlefront 2, as well
Yes.
as, of course, the classics. And Star Wars The Clone Wars, which, looking back, I don't know if it's a great game, but you do get to drive like ATSTs and tanks and clone dropships and all that. So it's pretty good.
Don't forget the Lego ones. I love those.
Oh, and absolutely the Lego ones. Yeah. I think I guess we were still like preteens or teenagers when the first of those came out, and they
Yeah.
were fantastic. Still are a little formulaic now. I haven't played one recently because they all sort of seemed like okay, it's a Lego game, but
Yeah.
still super cool. I was thinking about it as I was doing this research. It's hard to know exactly what made Star Wars games so much more popular than the Star Trek games today, but I guess maybe something about the when the movie came out caught people's attention at the right time, and it was so popular that it kind of stuck in the culture and stayed relevant for a longer time. I'm sure it made it inspire many more games to a larger audience that really appreciated them.
Hmm. Certainly, like when I think back on it, I feel like Star Wars had that first party support with LucasArts that Star Trek just didn't have. Like a lot of these Star Trek games have been people that love the show and they're kind of making their own game. But when you get into the like later in the timeline when it takes teams of people to develop stuff, I mean, not that we've never seen a Star Trek game since then, but there just seems to be a larger corporate backing behind Star Wars too for some reason.
Right. I think it's been said that George Lucas was kind of real smart when he was thinking about how to merchandise his product. Like early on, I guess he knew it was going to be pretty successful, and he's like, no, I kind of want like the rights to get
Mm-hmm.
however much of a cut it is from the merchandise. So I'm sure that could have influenced it a lot if he's like, well, I want to be the one controlling what games are put out for this, so they're all coming from this central entity, or at least mostly from LucasArts.
Mm-hmm. Right. And this is all to say, I'm not sure if Starship One was directly inspired by either or. Maybe you'll get into that later, Wes,
I
when
will
we
a
get
little
into the
bit.
timeline. But yeah, we've got some space games coming up. Not only Starship One, but even more later in the timeline in 77 and 78, especially. So we just thought maybe we talk a little bit about why that is. I mean, it's because Star Wars came out in 77, and people are noticing.
Right.
And they're starting to do stuff. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And with that, why don't we take a break and head on over into the timeline? Hello and welcome back from that riveting music interlude.
Ooh, riveting this time. I like it.
Yeah, that word does. It's kind of weird for me. It's like, what are we welding stuff together? You know,
Right, right. It feels like you're really securing something down. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get into it though. We're going to start off with some computer games here to start from the People's Computer Company July August issue. We're going to start here with Capture, which is a strategic tic-tac-toe type game where you capture letters on a grid as well as symbols around the letter. Basically what this is, if you can imagine a bunch of letters on a grid, when you click on one, there's kind of like an invisible circle that goes over top of that that's, you know, larger than the letter, and anything else that's in that circle also goes to your score. It's
Okay.
more like, how can I get the biggest area in a square where circles? You know, kind of mathy. Because the first person that goes gets to pick, you know, kind of the most center type of circle. It seems very one-sided towards whoever goes first. I thought. So I thought that was kind of strange, but yeah, we're not going to play that one.
And then next up in that issue, we just have a list of SR56 programmable calculator games, mostly games like High Low, Nim, and something called Sun Tzu's Trick, which is probably just a math game, I'm sure, with a little bit of flavor text about Sun Tzu. And then the last one that we have for the People's Computers July-August issue is Inverse Reverse, which is not really a game. You basically make a list of numbers, and the computer rearranges them using the rules of the game reverse and shows you the work that it did for each move. So kind of just to say, like, hey, look what computers can do, but not really a game.
It's like computers can play a game.
Right, and we can watch.
Yeah. That's going to move us on to the first one that I rated today, another console. This one's called the Telstar Combat, which uses the AY3 8700 chip, which is also, by the way, the next chip in the PC50X line. It's from the PC503. So this one's kind of an interesting one. We've got 4 tank battle games, and this whole chip is kind of revolves around these tank games. And to be honest, I'm really happy that it has nothing to do with Pong.
Yeah.
And there's some good stuff about the console, and then there's some stuff that I think are kind of missed opportunities or don't make a whole lot of sense to me. So let's get into it. Let's start by talking about the gameplay, which I gave a 1.5 out of 10. You've got 4 different games here, but they all basically are the exact same. It's basically Tank, you know, kind of like the Key Games version of Tank. So one player versus one player. The tank itself, I think the sprite like looks decent, but it actually goes in 16 different directions.
Wow.
And like some of the like weirder angled ones don't look good. They look like kind of squished and stuff. Like the sprites don't look quite right. But if the tank is going purely like up or down or side to side, it looks pretty nice. So that's kind of weird, but I guess it could be cool. The battlefield itself looks almost exactly like the original tank. It's not quite as detailed, but it's in black and white, and you have a lot of barriers and mines around. Again, the mines don't quite look the same as the original, but if you just like glanced at this, you'd be like, "Whoa, that's Tank by Key Games." I mean, it looks very similar to it, and that's all really really good. I thought. Let me kind of get into some of the other game modes before I get in more into gameplay. First of all, the first one is called Combat. It's just 1v1 tank. We also have Robot Battle, which is a one player versus AI. The AI is like not good in this. It basically does like large S's and then just shoots as quickly as it can. And if you happen to be in its way, it'll hit you, but it's not like it's trying to chase you or anything. It's pretty just random, and seems like it'd be pretty easy to kind of outmaneuver and get behind it. You also have Camouflage Combat, which is a game mode that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Is essentially the AI just moves in a straight line and doesn't fire, and then you just fire at it, kind of like one of the shooting games from the Fairchild, where like the thing you're trying to hit is kind of moving across the screen, and you're just trying to hit it. But unlike those games, you can just move, so you're like right beside it, or like right beside it in its path. So it seems kind of weird. Maybe like it's more of like a trick shot type. Maybe you could do like a horse game with somebody or something. But seems like a weird kind of game mode to have. And then the last one is Night Battle, and on that one, the graphics turn a slightly different color. Originally, you have like a white tank and a black tank, and then the background is gray. But in Night Battle, the background is basically black. It's not quite black, it's like a little bit gray, but it's basically black, and the black player is more or less camouflaged. You can barely see it. And so now it's more of like a one versus one player. There's no AI in it, but one person has a massive advantage in that you can't really see them, and the other person has to hunt them down. So it could be a cool one, but I feel like there are issues with that one because the black tank player doesn't really know where they are. And also, the black player's score is in black text, so you can't really see the score. So those are the game modes, and to be honest, they don't feel that different. All of the backgrounds, by the way, like where the barriers are exactly the same. I feel like that was a huge missed opportunity where they could have created some design differences in how the background is laid out, but they're literally copy paste. So overall, the gameplay it's fun to shoot tanks at each other and shoot bullets, which by the way you can only shoot one at a time, which is kind of annoying.
Oh yeah.
But I just feel like there's not a lot of depth to the gameplay. Like these other game modes don't really do a lot for me. Like I could verse bad AI, or I could verse somebody and not be able to see them or their score.
Right.
Like those are the options we have. And then also there's some weird stuff going on with the gameplay where you have mines which do, like, you go over them, hear an exploding sound, and the opponent will get a point. But there's also walls and barriers, right? But the walls and barriers have no collision, so you can just go right through them. And there is an audio sound effect that plays when you go through it that's like, you're not supposed to be in here. But it doesn't matter, you can just go through it. And that includes the edges of the screen, so you can go. It's weird too because the edges of the screen have a distinct border around it to be like there should be a wall there,
right?
And you can just go through it and then wrap around the screen, which I saw multiple videos of, and it just seems like that's the way it was designed. Like they knew it, like that could happen. And in the AI modes, when the AI goes across the screen, it goes through the walls to go back around. So it's very very weird. Some of the gameplay just makes me a little confused,
Yeah.
And I feel like there are a lot of missed opportunities if you have 4 different game modes to make them all unique in some way, and I don't think that these are that unique, really. Before I move on to graphics, let me talk about the console itself for a second. It's basically kind of a triangle or trapezoid type looking thing. The controllers are attached to the console, which is super annoying, and it's basically 2 big joysticks. And if you push both joysticks forward, the tank will go forward. If you push both of them back, it'll go back. And then if you push one up and one down, that's the turning. So I called it like forklift controls. I don't really know, but it feels like something a construction truck would do. I don't know. Maybe tanks move like that, but it seems a little strange. It could be fun. On top of one of the joysticks is a button, which is your fire button, but that's basically it. But the joystick itself, or the console itself, it's kind of annoying that it's, both players have to sit right beside each other. And since you're like kind of pushing and pulling, I imagine if somebody else is doing that a little aggressively, it's like moving your side
Right.
around and stuff.
A lot of banged elbows, I'm sure.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what the console itself looks like. Let's move on to graphics. I gave that also a 1.5 out of 10. The tank sprites look decent, but it's in black and white. And like I said, there's issues where I can't read the score sometimes. There's issues where I can't, like, I don't know what walls are walls and what, like, dots are mines, They look,
Right.
I think all the mines are black, but I'm not positive about that. And the fact that you can, like, just go through walls, like, there's some things, the graphics, they don't really make sense. The bullet looks fine, but the explosion kind of sprite, I guess, looks kind of weird. It's not like I think of, when I think of an explosion, I think more of like what the nuke looks like, you know what I mean? Like a little nuke.
Right. Kind of like big fireball.
Yeah, big fireball. But this is more like a static, like something like you hit something and it kind of like statics out for a second. I don't know. Or like the blinky kind of thing, but it's not blinky, it's more like a textured sprite or something. I don't know.
Okay.
It didn't look quite right to me. And it happened all the time, whether you hit somebody or not. It was just like the bullet kind of explodes at the end of its journey, which was kind of annoying getting into the next part, which is sound, because whenever one of those goes off, which goes off every time somebody shoots, it makes a really loud, annoying explosion sound. It's not like a terrible sound, but you just get it all the time. And since all the games are the same, it just is constant, and it's much louder than the background hum of the tank, which I actually think is really nice. Like the background hum, and it actually speeds up a little bit when the tanks go a little bit faster. But you can't hear it because you just get these explosions happening all the time. So I don't know. All those things combined, I just gave it another 1.5 out of 10. There is sound. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. So 1.5. And then relevance, I gave it a 6 out of 10, only because I know it sold pretty well. The Telstar Combat, I mean, obviously Telstar and Coleco, who made it, are pretty big. It's a pretty big company, pretty big brand. It's also from the PC50X line. So there's a bunch of people in Europe and Asia that also got their hands on this eventually. And there's some clones as well. And it's AY3 8700. So the AY General Instruments are involved. Obviously, this was pushed pretty hard. I don't think it was like the best-selling console of all time, but I wanted to give it some points because it seems somewhat popular, and there's lots of videos of it online anyway. Although I don't think it inspired that much.
Right.
And then overall, hopefully you guys know this, I gave it 1.5 out of 10 because that was like all my scores for this one. But yeah, I don't know. I was kind of going into it expecting a little bit more, considering it was a console solely devoted to tank. Like, I was kind of going into it thinking it'd be the same level of quality as Stunt Cycle was, but I think it's actually kind of worse. Like, the Stunt Cycle other game modes at least sounded a little bit different and interesting, and then these ones, I just don't think I would play them very much. Like, I would play the original combat with a friend, and if I was just destroying them, maybe I'd play the night battle to give them
Right.
an extra opportunity. But the AI is so bad and makes so little sense, I don't think I'd play those game modes. So, and the fact that there are other issues with it in just the normal game modes, it's like, well, nothing's really wowing me here.
Right.
I'd rather just go to the arcade and play it for real. So, which by now they're in color and they look amazing and stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. I was a little disappointed in it, to be honest. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it sounds like with good reason. what I'm thinking about now is listening to it, and I want to know what your opinion on this is. I feel like the difference between Pong and hockey,
Mhm.
oddly enough, feels greater than the difference between combat and night battle. Like,
Yeah,
as far as like gameplay, I mean, and all they're doing is adding a wall, or maybe it's just because it plays well in most of the Pong and hockey games that we play. But hmm,
I don't know. I just feel like there is so much that could have been done. Like even if it was like the one versus one, just normal combat, no AI, but they gave me four different backgrounds or just arrangements of the obstacles on the screen, I'd be like, okay, there's four distinct game modes here, and I'd have fun playing every single one, you know? But since every one is the exact same position of everything on the screen, it's like, well, what's the point?
yeah,
I feel like they went down a different road from what I wanted, and I don't think that their road was the right one.
right,
So I feel like there's a missed opportunity because I think, I love tank games and having one at home. I'm down, but just make it simple and good. That's all you need. I don't need it to be not able to see my own tank because it's so
yeah.
dark. I don't want that. I don't want a shooting mode where the tank just goes in a straight line and you just shoot it forever. Like it's not that's not what I want. But yeah, that's it. So let's move on from that. We got some clones here to go through.
Yeah, so talking about some more honorable mentions of the 8700 chip, we have Video Game Tank Battle, very straightforward. The SD02 3 by Telepartner, and several other consoles using that same chip.
Yep, that was just one of them. We also have the Tank Battle by Grundig, which had an 87 in it, and also I couldn't tell if it was an 8500 or an 8550. Which that combination I think actually could maybe work, having a tank game and then also just normal Pong games. Although I hope it was the 8550 because I think that one's in color. Because if it was black
Right.
and white, that'd be like, whoa. I think I already mentioned this last one here. It's the PC 50X 503, the third one in the PC 50 line, and it has the 8710 chip. I just wanted to say I couldn't find out what the 10 meant in that as opposed to the 8700. I'm guessing it's just like the European version because we've seen that before where the numbers have changed very slightly when it's like the European version or they call it the PAL version, I guess for electricity reasons.
Right.
That's my guess. I didn't find that it had 10 games on it or anything, so I just want to mention that. All right, let's do some arcade games, Wes. How do you feel about that?
I'm ready. I mean, these weren't some great consoles. Let's get into some exciting, hopefully, arcade games.
Yeah. The first one here has a great name, The Great White Buffalo Hunt.
Oh, man.
Yeah, by Amutech, which is a terrible name for business, but we don't really know much info on it. It's some kind of light gun game. I didn't even find any pictures of what the screen looked like, but with a name like that, I'm assuming it's a light gun game similar to Triple Hunt's like Bear game.
Right.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, but it's some kind of light gun game. And then next we have Jacklot, which is by A1 Supply slash Data East. I saw some dates for 78 from this, but I also saw on the Data East Wikipedia page that it was released July in 77, and it's a blackjack type game. And it's super important for us because it's the first game made by Data East, which is soon to be a pretty large developer, and they develop on all sorts of consoles over probably a 20-year history, so 20, 30 years. So we'll definitely talk about them in the future, but it's interesting that they get their start with like a simple blackjack type game.
Right. And then next up, we are going to talk about the first game that I got to rate today. Also, a game that has made blackjack games in the past, Ramtech, or a company that has made
Yeah.
blackjack games in the past. But today, we're going to be talking about a pretty different and exciting one called M79 Ambush by Ramtech. Came out in July of 77. And just going over the cabinet for this, it's got like yellow, reddish color theming all over it with the big cartoony kind of explosion lines. The screen itself looks like you're sort of in a savanna or like a desert clearing of a jungle. I don't know if it really makes sense as like an actual biome, but there's like a bunch of jungle trees around, and then there's kind of like a part leaves are all around the screen, and through the middle you can see like a savanna or desert clearing or something. Sort of makes sense when you look at it.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I kind of to me it It has like Cuba vibes. I don't know. That's what I get from it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm
Like tropical jungle. So I
yes,
don't know.
yeah. It was the clearing that threw me off, but I think it is supposed to be tropical jungle, and then there's just this open section in the middle of it.
Hmm.
The screen itself, I didn't have any up close looks at it, but it looks like it was slightly recessed, like a lot of the light gun games that we've seen. And the light guns for this cabinet are these like white. I don't think they're supposed to look futuristic, but they kind of do. Cannons, and they're very close to the screen, but they look pretty cool. They're like the big machine gun handles, so they have the two handles, and I think the fire button was at the top of one of the handles. And apparently, this is modeled after an actual weapon called the M79 grenade launcher. So in this, you're just shooting grenades at all the stuff on the screen. The game was actually pretty well received and rated as one of 1977's top 15 games by Replay Magazine.
Whoa.
And yeah, I also didn't know that ranking existed, but there you go. So Ramtech's getting their name out there, and it's one of the most popular games, kind of colloquially. I don't know if there's actual evidence on that, but by Ramtech. So it was pretty well received and a big one for them. Somebody who we've seen around through this history a little bit. So getting into the gameplay of this, it's a light gun game. Your bullets come from the bottom of the screen and travel up, instead of like some of the plane games that we've played where they sort of travel from the edges. You're shooting tanks, jeeps, and motorcycles for points within 90 seconds. But then there's also UN trucks, which is just kind of like a big box truck that says UN on it in big letters, that if you hit it, it'll actually give you a point penalty. Tanks are worth 100 points, jeeps are worth 200, and motorcycles are 700 because they're so freaking fast. They were super hard to hit. I didn't get many of them. After shooting, there's an explosion, and a score kind of like appears in this cartoony explosion, so you know how many points you got for each one. And then, one of the really interesting gameplay elements of this, the vehicle falls down and blocks your bullets with its wreckage for the next several hits.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really interesting spin. And basically, if you hit part of the wreckage, it disappears, but it seems like each debris piece had like at least two parts that could block a bullet, so you don't necessarily clear the whole thing out if you hit it once. And then after a certain amount of points, you get an extended play. Going into my ratings for this, for graphics, I gave it a 3 out of 10. Unfortunately, we weren't really able to find any videos of the original cabinet. There was a very tiny image on the flyer that I could look at, which is why me and Ben don't really know if it's Cuba or a desert with a jungle in the middle of it or what's going on. But it does look like it's like a lot of the light gun games we've seen recently, where it's sort of got the mirror display where the screen's actually in the bottom of the cabinet and sort of the painted look for the background. It looks pretty nice with the plants in the foreground and then this sort of like clearing where all of the tanks and the jeeps are going through. But talking about what I can say with certainty is great about the graphics in this game and why I gave it a 3 out of 10, sprites are like really good for these. The tank and the jeep both look really great and pretty well detailed. The tank, you can, because it's pretty large, I mean, the cannon looks great. It has a V on it for reasons. I don't know what it stands for, maybe victory. And the treads actually move. So you can see the treads moving around the wheels.
Yes, I thought that was so cool.
I mean, we're in the point in the timeline where any small detail like that is like, holy cow, but it looks so good. And they also did the smart thing where the wheels are basically all white for both the Jeep and the tank, but there's a black dot offset on one of the sides in the white wheel so that it can flip between like 3 different sprites, but you see that black dot moving in a circle, so it gives you the illusion that the wheels are moving in a circle too. So it's a real smart, like, I guess, graphical idea to just basically leave out a white pixel and have 3 different sprites, and now it looks like this wheel's moving. So it does a real great job for both the Jeep and the tank looking like they're moving. The motorcycle also looks pretty good, but it goes so fast I couldn't really see it. And the UN truck looks pretty good as well. You know, it's one of those like canvas-backed army trucks.
Yeah.
But it's not as big as the tank, so it doesn't have as much detail. And of course, one of the biggest things for the graphics that this has going for it is that you blow up the vehicles and like chunks of them stay on screen. Like there's tank treads that come flying down. There's the whole motorcycle stays on screen, and then the wheels of the Jeep stay on screen.
Hmm.
And unless the emulator that I was playing changed anything graphically, it seems like the game could handle a lot of debris on the field at the same time.
Mhm.
Part of the way they accomplished this is it actually looked like there was three or two rows that the vehicles could go on, and then there's sort of these tiny like invisible rows that you don't really see that the sprites for the debris stay on, so that they're not like going over each other, and it doesn't have to try and render or display both of those at the same time.
Right. The roads are clear.
Exactly, yes. Although I don't know if this was an emulator problem or if it was actually in the cabinet, but sometimes if you shot a truck and like the score popped up saying you got 100 points and a Jeep drove like right past it, it would like as it drove, it would erase the 100 off the screen. Like the 100 wouldn't disappear on its own. It might have just been an emulator glitch, but it was pretty funny. And speaking of the scoring, the explosions also look great. It's like this big comic book explosion, and when you blow up the tank, it's this wham in big letters. So it's real good. And if you accidentally shoot the UN truck, there's a big frowny face sticking its tongue out at you whenever you shoot it. So moving on to the sound for this, I gave it a 2 out of 10. It's pretty good sounds. There's a nice whistling kind of missile noise for when you shoot your grenade or your bullet. There's a hit noise for when you hit debris, but then there's also a good explosion noise for whenever you hit a target. And there may have also been some sounds for the vehicle. It seemed like the flyer was advertising that, but in the emulators and videos that I watched, I wasn't really able to hear anything. So overall, it was just pretty good sound, but not great. Nothing really blew me away. For gameplay, I gave it a 3 out of 10. Even though it's just another light gun game on the surface, I feel like the debris element is just like a whole nother layer to the gameplay. There's only 4 target types, but there's basically increasing difficulty every time you successfully hit a target because the debris stays on screen until you hit it again. So it really makes it feel dynamic in the way that you're sort of, as you get more points, you're making it harder for yourself the whole time. And combining that with the fact that there's a UN truck that shows up, so it's not just I have to shoot everything, but there's also something you have to avoid hitting,
Mhm.
which I feel like is a common theme in light gun games or other shooting type games now, but I don't really think we've seen that too much in games we've played before, other than maybe some of the hunt games.
Mhm.
So those two things together, along with just the fact that the game seemed like it played pretty well, made for some pretty fun gameplay. Relevance, I gave it a 7 out of 10 because M79 Ambush is one of Ramtech's most popular games, and Ramtech we've kind of been seeing for a while in this timeline. And spoilers, we might not see them for much longer in this timeline. So it just kind of feels fairly relevant because it's a big game. I feel like a lot of the Ramtech stuff we saw was kind of clones of other stuff. Some of them they did really
Yeah.
well, but this is sort of I mean, it's a light gun game. There have been tons of them, and especially with shooting tanks and jeeps, but it's a pretty good one. They really put a lot of cool elements into it.
Yeah.
So I felt like, especially being one of Ramtech's games, it's kind of really relevant in that sense.
Not to get too off track, but just to remind people, Ramtech for a while had Hal Ivey, I believe, who made a bunch of great games for them, and then he left. I think he went to Exidy, and since then they haven't really done that much. So this is like a nice original thing from them.
Yeah, yeah, after we kind of hadn't really seen too much exciting from them for a while. So then overall for M79 Ambush, I gave it a 3 out of 10. It just kind of feels like a super solid light gun game. It does just enough to make it feel competitive and interesting compared to other light gun games in 77. And even though the graphics aren't really as detailed as the crazy shading that we got in Triple Hunt, I feel like they do plenty of creative things to make the vehicles look more real. And of course, I just think the Debris Edition, even though that kind of seems simple, really added a lot to it as a game.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the light gun mechanic, Wes? Because it's not like you just point at the screen and it goes right there. It's more like it shoots from the bottom, but maybe it'd
Right.
be better to talk about that.
And it seems like you aim at the part of the screen where you want it to go, but then you're
Mm-hmm.
sort of drawing an angle from where it shoots from at the bottom of the screen.
Right.
And to be honest, in the emulator, it was really confusing because you could aim all the way to the right of the screen, and it wouldn't always come from the same point on the bottom of the screen.
Hmm.
So I don't know how consistent that is with how the actual game plays. I kind of assumed it would always be on the same point at the bottom of the screen that it came from, and you're just sort of completing the line with where you're pointing on screen. But if it did float all around like it did in the emulator, it might have been pretty tough to play in real when you actually played it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the gameplay seemed cool, but depending on how that actually panned out on the actual cabinet, it might have been a little rough.
Right. But that's like why the debris is so important in the game, because it's not like you can just aim upwards and then you won't never hit it. It's more like it shoots a projectile from the bottom where you're aiming, and then if there's debris in between where you aimed and the projectile, like it'll get stopped.
Right. Yeah. And thanks for mentioning that because that's part of what makes the debris so impactful is that your bullet has to travel the whole path from the bottom of the screen to your target. So anything in the way there, it'll hit.
Mm-hmm. And do you remember? I think when I looked at this, you could shoot. I want to say you could shoot a lot of bullets at once.
Yeah. It seemed like you could shoot like 4 or 3 within quick succession, and I couldn't really tell what the limit was. I mean, they travel pretty fast too, so maybe it is after one blows up, but it really didn't feel like had a good feeling. Like it didn't feel like you were waiting for
Mm-hmm.
the next shot. You could sort of just spam and hit everything, which is also, I mean, you have the UN truck to hold you back, so you're not just spamming the whole screen. So there's a little bit of like a barrier there, but it felt good
Yeah.
the amount of times that you could shoot in it.
Yeah, I loved it because like you killed a tank and then it became debris. I would just like spam it and try to get rid of the debris quick, so I'd be ready
Right.
for the next thing. So I loved that. I thought there was just like so many little things like that that just made it a kind of complete experience.
Yeah, stuff that you don't think about that added up to make it a pretty awesome arcade game.
Mhm.
And next up, moving on from Ambush to another arcade game, we have Score by Exidy, talking about Exidy. And this is a real strange one, which maybe we're better off for not knowing more about, other than the fact that it sounds really interesting. Basically, it's a demolition derby type game, except you need to go score, in quotes, with other patrons at a bar as fast as possible. So you're just like driving some drunk dude around, I guess, in you're
Well, I
playing
think
as him.
maybe the car might be like a character of a sprite of a person. I'm not sure, but
Oh, that's what I
it's
meant. Yeah.
basically just like it's basically Death Race, but instead of you being a car like hitting other people and killing them, it's like you're maybe a person or a car and you're going and picking up chicks, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Which is as easy as just driving over them with your person character and good to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Let's move on from that. We've got two more here today. The next one that I rated is a computer game, and it's actually an Oregon Trail game. Which, why have we not seen more of these, Wes? Oregon Trail is so good,
Yeah.
and this one, we'll see.
Oh no.
Before I talk about it, do you want the lore, Wes?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, here we go. The time is the year 2000.
Oh no.
An atomic war has taken place, wiping out a major portion of the population. You have been living within your bomb shelter for the last 2 months. Your food ration supply has nearly been exhausted. You must now go into the new world and find any fellow human beings who have survived the war. The fate of mankind lies within your hands.
Oh wow.
I know, it's like, whoa.
That
I thought it was
escalated
just finding
fast.
food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good though. I like that. You know, I'm a sucker for post-apocalyptic settings.
Yes, this is Oregon Trail in a post-apocalyptic world, but as you'll learn, Wes, it doesn't feel like post-apocalyptic. I mean,
Okay.
one of the first things I do in like every run, which is another thing I have to get into, but like you're fighting bears, you're killing deer. It's like, what are we like in the woods of Canada or something? Like, it seems kind of weird. Any kind of lore-based thing, there is some reference to being post-apocalyptic. So like if you go through a town, it could be like have radiation in it and stuff. But there's also like weird segments where you're like fording a river and you're like, this seems strange for 2000,
Right.
But either way, it's kind of an interesting one. I didn't like it that much, and let me talk a little bit about why. I think it's really maybe two things. One is that there are a lot of ways where you automatically die. Like you do one wrong decision and it's like game over. and I really don't like that. I feel like one of the great things about Oregon Trail is like something bad happens, maybe you lose a limb or you get sick, and it has a combination of making poor decisions, which is why you lose. But on this one, like I had one that got me super angry where basically it was like you find a person in the road, what do you want to do? And it was like I could capture him, talk to him, or just keep walking. And I chose just keep walking because I had no reason to talk to him, right? And it was like your mission was to bring fellow humans into your group. By passing this person, you have failed your mission. Game over. I was like, what? Like, you mean I can't just survive by myself?
Right.
It's so weird. And it's automatic game over. And I was like, wow. I guess that was a run, I guess. And similarly, there were so many times when you go into a cave, there's a bear there, you're dead. Like nothing I could do.
Right.
So it just happened a lot. Like even situations where I would play the same scenario a couple times and I would do all the options and like the best option was like you get sick. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? You know, like
A lot of no-win scenarios.
yeah, a lot of no-win scenarios. And because of that, you kind of force yourself down the same paths a lot. And the game is not random, or at least doesn't feel very random. So I saw a lot of the same scenarios come up. I played 4 or 5 runs, and every single time I fought a bear, I knew exactly what I needed to do to kill that bear, and it worked every single time, you know?
Hmm.
And it always starts out the same. It's like the very beginning, it's like, do you want to go left or right? And if you go left, it's like the same thing every time. So the further you go in the game, I think the more branching there is and the more different paths. But certainly in the beginning, I feel like you can have the first couple of days like kind of down after a couple runs. Like this is the best way to go. And I don't like that. I feel like part of Oregon Trail that makes it amazing is that it feels very random and maybe it's good to ford a river and maybe it's good to go around the river, but maybe the reasoning behind that changes every time you play the game, you know? But in this one, it felt like there was kind of one right answer to a lot of stuff, which I didn't like.
Right.
And I saw a lot of the same scenarios come up. Beyond that, it had a lot of similarities to Oregon Trail where, like, the shooting, it made me type bang in.
Oh, nice.
Do you remember in original Oregon Trail if you did that really slowly, if something different happened? Because on this one, everything's predetermined, so I could have just sat there for minutes and then hit bang, and it was like you kill it in one hit.
I thought that, unless I was imagining it, that you did have to type it fast
Mm-hmm.
in Oregon Trail.
They make you feel like you need to type it fast, but in this one, you definitely don't. Overall, the game just felt kind of like a bare bones Oregon Trail, like without a lot of the inner systems that make it what it is and make it so fun and interesting and make each run very different. A lot of my runs felt the same, and then I basically got to one point where I made one wrong decision, game over, you know, restart. So I didn't enjoy it that much, to be honest. So you got the good games today, Wes. So going through my scores, I gave gameplay 1.5 out of 10. I mean, I like the lore, even though it's all text-based. There is some good storytelling there. There are scenarios where I'm like, I feel like any of the answers might be the correct answer. So as far as like the typing up of the game and the story, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Although I have no idea what the end goal is, because in Oregon Trail, it's obviously to get to Oregon. And on this one, I guess it's to save the world, question mark.
Right, yeah.
So that was kind of weird, but you know, it's Oregon Trail's a pretty fun game, and even this, there's some fun to be had, although I didn't have the best time. For graphics, I actually gave it 1 out of 10 just because I thought the storytelling was good enough that I could pretty well imagine the world for the most part. The bears and wildlife and stuff, I was like, is this just copy paste from Oregon Trail? And they didn't change it into something interesting. But a lot of the times, especially if you're talking with other people or you're meeting people along the way, it just, I don't know, there's something about the storytelling captivated me a little bit. So I wanted to give graphics a little bit there for imagination, although it is all text-based. And actually, I forgot to mention this. The game came out in July of 77 on BASIC, but the only version I found to play was the Apple II version, which came out in 78 or 79. It seems to be copies, as far as I can tell. But I kind of wanted to cover it now since it first came out now, and I played the Apple II version. So because of that, the text looks a little bit nicer, and the typing out of like yes and no and stuff looks a little bit nicer.
Mhm.
So that helped. Sound 0 out of 10, no sound on this computer game, even though it is the Apple II. And then relevance, I don't know, I gave it 6 out of 10, mainly because it's the first Oregon Trail type clone that we've seen. And because of that, it has like a weird popularity around it on forums and stuff, especially because Oregon Trail in itself has gone through so many iterations, and like it's been in development, I think, since like 71. So because of that, the actual date of a lot of different copies of Oregon Trail isn't that known very well. So this is like up there with like a game that could have come out before the first type of Oregon Trail game that we could play today came out. So there's a lot of discussion about that because Oregon Trail is so popular. People want to know the earliest thing that they can play. So there's like a weirdly popular subset of people like checking out this game, I thought.
Hmm.
But yeah, I thought it was just okay. I don't know if I mentioned, but it was by Ray Brander, who I think was working in Michigan or Maine, one of those M states at the time.
Right.
And then overall, just a 1 out of 10. I didn't like it that much. It felt very linear and kind of opposite to what I thought Oregon Trail was going to be like.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I love the post-apocalyptic world, there were a lot of elements that was like, it felt like I was still playing in Oregon or something, you know? I was
Right.
like, this is weird too. So I don't know, it just didn't unify into something that was itself. It felt like it was a copy paste of an Oregon Trail code with a couple words changed out and a couple scenarios that are different, and maybe a couple gameplay systems taken out too, which is kind of weird.
Yeah. It almost feels like it was hobbled to the point it was leaning more text adventure than Oregon Trail type, but
Yeah,
it felt like it should be Oregon Trail type, you know?
yeah, that's a good point. I definitely felt that a little bit.
Which, as much as text adventure games are important and a lot of them are awesome, that's like one of the main frustrations I had with Colossal Cave Adventure, too. It's like, okay, well, if I don't know exactly how to solve every puzzle, then I'm just boned. Although that thankfully didn't have as many instant deaths. It was more just like,
Yeah,
you can't do that. So,
yeah,
yeah.
right. It was kind of just a weird mashup. But let's move on, Wes. I'm so curious to hear about this next one. I'm so excited.
The main
Let's do it.
event
Yes.
and the inspiration for to us talking about the influence of Star Trek and Star Wars on video games throughout history. I'm going to be talking about Starship 1 by Atari. The arcade game came out in July, and it's a pretty cool one. I do want to say though, it is blatantly an unlicensed Star Trek ripoff, and I will explain why as I go through it. But like, so blatant, I love it. The cabinet itself, it's this got this really cool design. It's this black arcade cabinet, but it has these awesome like neon colored swirls on the side of it that look sort of like I want to call them like chemtrails or like the exhausts or like the lights
Mhm.
coming out of the back of the very Enterprise looking spaceship at the bottom of the cabinet. There's also like planets in the background that are really brightly colored, but it's a really nice contrast where it's not just like a wood grain thing with like a design slapped on it or some of the more bland ones, but the black with the neon colors is a really striking difference. And just to talk about how much this is a Star Trek clone, these are the main two, not clone, but a Star Trek inspired game. The main two things are on the flyer. It says that this game is a new profit frontier, talking about the new frontier of space, which might not be Star Trek exclusive, but it also says it goes where no game has gone before. It doesn't say
Nice.
bravely going where no game has gone before, but it seems pretty Star Trek inspired. The controls for this are basically a big flight wheel, and inside of the cabinet around the screen, there's like this hard paper or like cardboard 3D image of the inside of a ship hangar. It's really
Whoa.
cool and it's really weird. It reminds me of like the, I forget if it was Missile Attack or if it was attack, but the gets confusing looking back at those light gun games, but where the mountains were sort of on the side of the inside of the cabinet, making this 3D screen almost.
I think attack.
I think that was attack, yes, yeah. So it's got this really cool thing going on, the kind of very 70s futuristic looking, like blocky spaceships inside this hangar. It's a mirrored screen, like light gun games, although this one isn't a light gun game. And it actually had a space background on the mirror, although I wasn't able to see what that looked like too well. There's a light up marquee on the top of the cabinet itself that had the game title and the scoring of what each enemy ship was worth. And also, instead of just being a flat front cabinet, it has this big plastic frame all the way around the outside of the cabinet that kind of encapsulates you a little bit when you're standing up, so you really feel like you're in the cockpit. It's pretty cool. It looks like it would be, it kind of blocks some of your peripheral vision, so it looks like it would really help it be more immersive. And this is also reportedly the first arcade game, and maybe first game. I don't know, some Tech Stick Ventures might have had Easter eggs before this, but the first arcade game to have an Easter egg. You use your controls to input a certain sequence, and you get the message, "Hi, Ron," and 10 free games. There was a designer on this named Ron Milner. I actually couldn't find whether he made it to say hi to himself or one of his friends who was working on it made it for him. I kind of like the idea that he made it say hi, Ron, but
Yeah.
I don't know for sure.
Uh-huh.
So, getting into the gameplay of this, you control the Starship Atari, and you are saving the Federation. No copyright there, I'm sure. And you basically steer the wheel, and stars fly past you in the direction that you're looking. And it really makes it look like you're moving through space, but it kind of has a similar feel to Interceptor by Taito, where you're sort of flying around and all the objects on the screen are coming in your direction as you're flying. Ships appear where you are looking, and they either fly towards you, get larger as they fly towards you, or they fly horizontally across the screen. The large and slower ships are worth less points, the faster, smaller ones are worth more points, just like a typical light game kind of scoring. And the timer for this game is a fuel counter in the top right instead of just a timer that is always ticking down as you're flying. There's a big lever as part of the controls that you can move to a faster setting. And I think if you go faster, it's kind of giving you more targets more often to shoot at. But it also looks like it might drain your fuel faster.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if it drains the time faster or if it's just like a upper difficulty and more points for scoring kind of thing. You can also hit a button that launches a torpedo that then clears the whole screen, blows up everything on it, and gives you points for all of them. And it also blows up planets if planets are flying by you. I don't think it gives you points for the planets, but it's a nice effect. And you get 5 torpedoes per game. Sometimes the enemy ships will crash into you if you don't hit them before they fly at you. And if you get hit, you slow down for a short period of time. And I couldn't find an exact number, but I think if you get hit a certain amount of times, it might stop the game early, too. And interestingly enough, this cabinet would also display the previous player's high score. So one of the first instances of like comparing score that we've seen in arcade games, because we don't see that a ton. We still don't have that classic like scoreboard really in many of the arcade games. So going into my ratings for this, I gave it a 3 out of 10 for graphics. It's a little hard to rate because the frame of the cabinet and the elements that are like painted on the screen add a lot to the visual elements of it, but the graphics themselves are still really cool. It's kind of similar to Interceptor by Taito in that everything's flying straight at you and they get bigger as they approach you, so all of the sprites for the ships look really good. There's this one thing that's like this weird space worm with big eyes that looks pretty good and weird. There's a UFO saucer sort of ship that flies straight at you. There's a pretty blatant ripoff of a Klingon warbird that also looks really good. Looks a lot like a Klingon warbird. And the largest target that moves horizontally instead of towards you is basically the Enterprise, or a ship like that. So they all look pretty good. They're pretty well detailed. Even as they get close to you, they look good. The stars flying past you look awesome because they really give you the feel that you're flying fast through space, and same with the planets as they kind of get large and then fall away from your view. And I'm not really sure if this is vector graphics or how they did this, but it looks really good. And it is in black and white, But for me, because it's in space, I don't really mind the black and white so much. And also, there's
No.
enough detail to keep me interested too. There's also a flashing screen whenever someone crashes into you, and it is like way overkill. It's so bright that the whole screen turns white and black in quick succession. But I do like that there's at least some indication of like, oh, you got hit, and it's kind of a big deal, and it's fun. The scoring and everything is also pretty clear, so just overall, really solid graphics for this and a real cool point of view. For sound, I gave it a 2.5 out of 10. It's kind of space-y versions of arcade sounds that we've heard before that are pretty good. The engine sound is pretty similar to some that we've heard in racing games, but it's like more echoey or bassy in some way, so it gives it more of a Starship feel. And also the phasers that you shoot that meet at the target in the center of the screen whenever you shoot them sound really good, and the torpedoes sound great. And the explosion sounds really good too, so all of that's just solid. None of it really got on my nerves. The enemy ship noise is a bit grating. I think it's one of the specific ships makes this sort of screeching noise as it flies towards you, but it's at least different than a lot of the stuff that we've heard before, and it kind of gives you this sense of urgency of like, oh, I really need to shoot that plane down or shoot that UFO down. So then for gameplay, I gave it a 3 out of 10. The gameplay is like really exciting. It has a nice hectic feel to it, especially at the higher speed. Things are always flying straight at you that you got to shoot down. I really like the perspective. It makes you feel like you're in the cockpit of a ship, and I think the general gameplay kind of fits that feel too. You really feel like you're flying something. Basically, it's an airplane shooting arcade game like Interceptor, but I think it controls really well and it gives you a lot of fun options to differentiate it, like using the torpedoes to wipe the whole screen or using your phasers. For relevance, I give it a 6 out of 10. Starship 1 adds a lot of new, cool theming that they basically stole from Star Trek, granted, but and also adds fun changes to what I would call like the airplane shooter sort of genre. And it also feels like it's one of the first arcade Star Trek games that we've played, even though it wasn't actually licensed. That being said, though, I don't know if it's going to make a huge impact on other games, although it does remind me of like a lot of the great Star Wars games that we're going to see later on that have that first person perspective in the ship. But I'm really excited to see more things like this. It feels like the first of its kind of like the space pilot shooting down other ships kind of game.
Yes. And we will see more of that.
Yes, yeah. As I was saying that, I was like, wait, there's at least like 10 Star Wars games that are exactly like this.
Even I know of a game, it's either this year or next year. It's in my research that I think directly pulls from this that just like takes the whole industry by storm.
Really?
Yeah. We're going to see it pretty soon, even, I think.
Let me retroactively and just change that right on the spot and make that a 8.5 out of 10
Whoa.
instead of a 6. I don't know. It's
Here, well, let me, you want me to check it, see if it's 77 or if it's 78, that might be even more of a reason that this was, like the one, but if it's 77, maybe they both have it at the same time, you know, I'm not
that's
sure.
true. Yeah.
Let me pull it up quick, my master list. It is in 77. I have it in as like October.
Gotcha.
So we're in July right now. It's possible.
Okay. Maybe we'll sit with that at a 8 out of 10 then.
Sounds good.
Could have been very relevant, but there are also some coming out close to this that are going to be similarly themed that could also be relevant for a lot of the ones that we're going to see in the future. But either way, they did a cool thing that we haven't really seen before. And of course, it's Atari making this, and they always kind of throw their weight around in this time period because they're making so many good games and people know about them.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I gave it a 3 out of 10. I like space, which everyone knows by now. So I'm a little biased in this, but I think even putting that aside, Starship 1 does a really good job of getting some things right in that sort of type of game that some of the other ones were missing. The sprites look really good, it controls well, and I think the sounds really fit well with the theme of the game.
Yeah.
So it's a ton of fun. The cabinet looks great. I just imagine it would have been so fun to play on this cabinet in '77 in an arcade.
Nice.
That's pretty much all I have for Starship One. Yeah, it's a real cool one. It's more space games. I'm always down for it, and it's reminds me a lot of playing the old school one where you're either in the TIE fighter or in the Millennium Falcon shooting down TIE fighters in first person.
I love this one. Like I'm not the biggest like space guy, but it kind of like when in Star Wars when you go into like light drive or whatever, it has that super fast feel to it, like you were mentioning,
Right.
and the sprites changing size, like they do it so well and so seamlessly. I just thought it feels like a very immersive game, even without all of the stuff in the cabinet. To me, I just feel like I'm in space, especially with all the stars in the background and stuff shining and lighting up the blackness. You know, it's like I don't know.
Yeah, and the fact that there's planets too, so it's like not just it feels more alive than a lot of the plain ones that we've played. Like there's so much going
Yeah,
on to really help bring you into that theme.
yeah, definitely. And I love the I think it's I think you said it was like a Klingon ship, but the one that goes right in your face. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
god, you know, it feels like he's going right beside you,
Right, yeah.
and he comes up so fast. And when you, especially if you have the speed going fast, so
Yeah. And I should mention that too. The fast speed for this is like so quick. It's
yeah,
it's a little overwhelming the first time you do it, but it's nice that there's that option.
yeah, feels like you know warp drive or something. You know, it's like some
Right.
crazy, and I love it. So I don't know. To me, this is like a game of the year contender for me. I don't want to influence your list, but I don't know. I like it.
No, I could definitely see that. It's got a lot going for it. And of course it's space, so you know I'm gonna consider it.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? We still have the Christmas season to go through, so that'll be a lot of new games, including another one like this. But
Ooh.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. But that'll do it for us today, guys. We talked about Telstar Combat, tank console. We also talked about M79 Ambush, a weird light gun shooting game hybrid thing, an Adam 20 Oregon Trail type game, and finally Starship 1, an Atari's version of a space game, which I think is maybe the first time they've done it, maybe since their second game ever made.
It's
So,
true. Yeah.
um, pretty cool.
Yeah, we got a lot of good stuff. And as always, make sure to check us out on Twitter, send us an email if you have any questions, and take a look at our website if you want to see some of the stuff we've talked about before and just see what we're talking about when we reference some of the previous games.
Yeah. And with that, we will see you in the next one.
See you guys in the next one.